Yes. Okay, fantastic. Right. Hello, everyone, and thank you very much for making the time to be here. I'm absolutely thrilled to be running this very first webinar for the Women in Tech community, and I think my very first webinar in English. And today I would like us to dive into one of the pillars of personal effectiveness, which is productivity. And it is a topic really close to my heart. So close that last year I created a few-week program on personal effectiveness called Get It Done. So you see some branding on the slides. And I did it mainly for folks working IT in Poland. But then I thought, why not translate it, translate some of the slide decks and share it with the English-speaking audience. And that's why I'm here today. So we talk about productivity and how I think we get it a little bit wrong. And most importantly, how we can get it right. And by right, I mean, how to do it in a sustainable way, in a way that is burnout proof, and in a way that's tailored to our individual needs, because, we are all different, which you're probably well aware of. As I said before, you can have your cameras off. We can be walking around, whatever helps you, to listen is absolutely fine with me. It'll be a designated space, let's say, for questions towards the end. And my intention for this webinar is to share with you what I know, with the hope that it will, fire some neurons and maybe give you some insights, bring you some new ideas into how to be more productive in a more sustainable way. My second intention is to remember to breathe, because I forget about that sometimes when I'm speaking. And the user manual that I have for you is basically take what resonates and burn the rest. Remember, that it is my personal approach, my experiences, some experiences, very high level experiences from me working with my clients, from people that I observe around me. So it is a perspective. There are obviously many perspectives. So take whatever works for you, and get rid of the rest. But hopefully there will be something useful for you. So, who am I? Hi, I'm Ola. And who am I exactly? I am a friend, I'm a partner, I'm a daughter. I am an expat. I reside in Forest of Dean, which is more or less halfway between Gloucester and Bristol. I'm a coach. I got my ACC credentials from the International Coaching Federations earlier this year. And I work predominantly with women in tech, predominantly because not only with women and not only in tech, but my area of expertise is personal effectiveness. During the day, I'm an RTE, release train engineer, which has nothing to do with trains, but a little bit to do with software development. So I also sit within that tech space. I'm also a constant learner, rather average runner. I'm a keen reader, and I started knitting recently. So there are quite a lot of layers to me, as there are to all of us. And I would really like to encourage you, if you are brave enough to share, if you could put in the chat a few words that describe you, a few of your layers of who you are, just so that we can get to know one another. And I would like to encourage you to not start with your job title, so that we don't identify ourselves with our job title, but some words that describe you. Would be wonderful. Let's see what we have. Avid reader, nice. I like that one. Planned dad, yes. I'm a planned mother. Killed a few last week. I'm not a good mother. Fitness guru. Wow, okay, that's amazing. Veronica, I'm in tech. So with my dog Winston, yes, we all love Winston. Reading developer, great, thank you. I knew that, but fine. Mum, sister, friend, coach, neurodivergent, weightlifting, amazing. Thank you for sharing. Friend, wife, mother, trainee, coach, leader, reader, learner. Wow, reader, mother of 11 years old boy. Wow, well done. A passionate mediation. Oh, that's great, really useful. Friend, wife, mother, art lover, tennis player, reader, digital support. Hi, Amy. 30 seconds. Love spending time in the Peak District with my Cocker Spaniel Otto. Amazing. Yes, love a bit of hiking as well. Peak District, beautiful. I haven't been for a few years now. Amazing. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. I really appreciate it. Now until the last slide or so, I'll probably not ask you for anything. If you want to chill, that's fine. But it's really lovely to meet you. So watch out, because the slide is going to be very boring, but I deliberately put it there because I think it's really important that we start with the definition of productivity and what it actually is. So productivity is the measure of how efficiently time and resources are used to produce goods or services. It reflects the amount of output generated within a specified period relative to the time and inputs invested. How we can translate that is basically the less resource, meaning time, labor, capital we use to produce a certain output, the higher the productivity. How we further simplify that is we say the less time we use to produce a certain output, the less time we spend to produce an output, the higher the productivity. So really, when we think about productivity, most often, and if I asked you, I'm not going to because I said I wouldn't, but if I ask you, some of you will probably say that, yeah, it is about managing time. It is about doing more in less time, because we all have 24 hours and, you know, we also have to sleep, we also have to eat and do a few other things. Why do we simplify it to time? Well, time is really straightforward. It's something that we all have. It's measurable. It's finite. You know, we go to work to, let's say, 8 hours a day. We have deadlines for a project. We have deadlines for different reports. So, you know, we have meetings scheduled for. We have a webinar that we have an hour for maybe. So, you know, we're really used to measuring things when it, you know, in the currency, in the unit of time. And I would like us to look at this diagram. It is an extremely simplified diagram of how a machine or an appliance work. Let's take a fridge or washing machine, because we all have seen one, we probably have one in our homes. At the beginning of the day and towards the end of the day, the energy consumption is pretty much the same. You know, we plug it into the socket, and the fridge, unless we put something really hot in it, is probably going to use the same amount of energy throughout the day. And so the standard definition of productivity, that, by the way, comes from agriculture and economics, works just fine for machines. If we just assume that, okay, we produce more in a given time, we'll boost our productivity. Now, sometime later, around 20th century, it started creeping into the personal productivity. And we seem to think that the simplified equation of just, you know, managing our time is going to work fine, just, you know, for us, for humans who are really complex living creatures. Okay, yes, I mean, washing machines, fridges are also to a degree complicated, probably, or most certainly wouldn't be able to fix one. But we can't really compare that to the level of complexity of us. As you've seen at the very beginning, as you said yourselves, we have a lot of layers. There's quite a lot to us, and we are part of nature, whether we like it or not. And nature has its own rights, and we sometimes seem to forget about it. And so we end up trying to do as much as we can in as little time as possible. And we are, as I said, well aware that we're not machines, but we do try to emulate them more or less consciously. And what is wrong with that? Well, so it turns out quite a lot. First of all, if we put aside, you know, our humanness and we get swallowed in that hustle culture, there's no chance for sustainable fulfillment or growth. For sustainable, I mean long-term, something that will actually make us thrive in a more distant perspective in the longer term. If we don't reflect on how we feel, where we are, where we're going, and we're just grinding all the time, this isn't good for us. Busy fool syndrome. We become busy fools. And my question to you is, ask yourself if you are a busy fool, and please don't get offended. There's nothing wrong with that. I am definitely a busy fool, maybe one of the busiest of them all. And what that really means, the busy fool syndrome is quite a fascinating phenomenon. And it is basically a situation where, you know, we decide that we are going to be productive, because if we don't do anything, then we start feeling guilt, maybe a bit of shame of like, oh, I said I would do X, Y, and Z, but I'm not doing anything. That's not great. So what we start to do instead is we engage in this productive procrastination, where we have a long list of tasks that we do, and we do this like internal negotiation of, oh, I was going to do this one very important thing that will actually make me, bring me closer to my goals or the life that I want to have, or it's really, really significant to me personally. But for whatever reason, and that is a subject for a completely different webinar, for whatever reason, I decide not to do it, but I'll do 7 other things instead. So then when I go to bed in the evening, I think, it's actually been a nice, productive day. But in the end, we are not any closer to our goals, to our life vision, or whatever we want to call it. We haven't done the stuff that really matters to us. And again, I know that there are certain things that we need to do during the day. There are certain things that we can't just not do. But there certainly is that problem of prioritization. And this, I don't even know if it should be called fool syndrome, because it's a very clever mechanism of how we do fool ourselves that we are actually productive. We are doing a lot, and we're doing something all the time, but maybe we don't really have the results that we want. And number 3, highway to hell. It's really needless to say, we all pretty much aware that our well-being suffers, and we are prone to burnout if we work this kind of way. We don't really pay attention to certain factors, which I'm going to discuss in a minute. If we leave behind our humanness and start acting unsustainably, we're basically going to burn out. Sooner or later, our body is going to give us some signals. Now, a second diagram, again, it's massively simplified and completely random, but it's a diagram of how energy consumption looks like in humans throughout the day, right? Basically, what I'm trying to portray here is that there are peaks, there are ups and downs, and our energy levels are not stable, not constant, should I say, throughout the day. And so if we look at those two, on the left we have machines in production, on the right humans. Well, if we look at machines in production, the standard approach to productivity that is reflected by the definition we saw at the very beginning, machines would say, let me produce more in less time, and I'm going to increase productivity. And so time management, or in general resource management, but simplifying to time management is the answer in this case. However, for humans, to be productive, we would say, let me focus. So let me concentrate what's important. Let me prioritize. Let me make progress on those things that really matter, using my resources the best way I can. And in this case, energy management is the answer. Energy and time management, but energy comes first. And why does energy come first? Well, because time management is useless. Because time management is a waste of time if we don't have the right level of energy to effectively complete the tasks that matter to us. So now, we all are probably aware of this new-ish trend of getting up at 5 a.m. to get our stuff done in the morning. That's absolutely fine and maybe works for some people. But what is the point of you getting up at 5 a.m. to work on a project if you're not an early bird, you're more of an owl, and your energy peaks at 10 p.m.? Like, how is that going to work for you? What is the point of being constantly busy? So again, touching upon that busy fool syndrome, if you're not getting any closer to your goals or where you want to be, and you're tired and you don't feel fulfilled, but you're always doing something. So human doing rather than human being. What's the point of using time management techniques to find 3 extra hours throughout the day, every day, for a task, a completion of which could take you 1 hour if you actually manage your attention effectively? So these are rhetorical questions, and I think you feel where I'm getting at. So one of the main conclusions and one of the main thoughts behind this webinar is that it's energy and not time that is the primary currency of high productivity. Doesn't mean time management doesn't matter. No, not at all. Time management is useful, and I personally have my own systems, my own techniques that that are helpful, but they all would be a waste of time if I didn't manage my energy first. Because as I said, you could technically sleep 4 hours and have 20 hours during the day, but you're not going to be effective. You're not going to be efficient if you work those 20 hours and only sleep 4. Now, this is a very extreme example, but it kind of shows what I'm trying to convey, hopefully. So what is important? Why is it important that that we manage our energy? So at the beginning, when I told you who I am and you kindly introduce yourselves, you could see that we as humans, we have a lot of layers. So time management, we often take it and we try to apply it to the areas where we have our goals. So for example, we have some professional goals, and you try to use different tools, different techniques, frameworks, whatever, to get the work done. Now, energy management doesn't work that way, because I can be an Ola at work, I can be Ola at the gym, Ola at home, Ola in the women in tech community. But at the end of the day, it is all the same me, it's the same Ola. And so energy has to be managed across all of those layers, across all of these areas, across all of the roles that we play in our lives. And so if we get it right, it's going to have a positive impact across our whole selves, let's say, our whole life, all of the areas. Second thing is, it helps with productivity, which is obviously the subject of this webinar. And it helps with motivation. Why? Because the most motivating factor when it comes to achieving goals is progress. And so if we manage our energy correctly, if we manage it right in a way that works for us, we're going to increase productivity. And by increasing productivity, we'll see progress sooner or later. When we see progress, our motivation grows, because we release dopamine in our brain and so on. We become more motivated. And when we're motivated, we work more, we focus more on what is important, and so on. And so it becomes a self-perpetuating cycle. And number 3, it allows for a sustainable approach to achieving goals. I would even argue that is the only way to pursue our long-term goals in a sustainable anti-burnout manner. So as using a product lingo, come from the product world a little bit, it's not really a nice to have energy management. I would say there's an absolute must have if we want to work towards our goals, regardless of what they are. We're going to keep attention management. Sorry. And we're going to go straight to energy management principles. So I've got a quote for you from Misters Laura and Schwartz, who are both American and have German surnames, so I probably completely mispronounced them. But they basically said, all our thoughts, emotions, and behaviors have energy consequences. The ultimate measure of our lives is not how much time we spend on this planet, but rather how much energy we invest in the time that we have. And so those guys are experts in a background in psychology and performance coaching. And being experts in the field, they devised 4 energy management principles I would like to talk you through, because those principles will help you, if applied, they'll help you to manage your energy effectively. And the first principle is a full engagement, meaning in the context of managing energy and being engaged in what we do. So full engagement requires drawing on 4 separate but related sources of energy. So they basically say that there are 4 buckets that we need to draw from. We got physical energy, which is everything that's related to our bodies, to our physical representation, the material stuff. Emotional energy, which is everything that relates to how we feel, to our interactions with other people, to living in society and all that kind of stuff. Mental energy, related to this powerhouse that we have here, all the stuff that's related to cognition, all the stuff that's related to any kind of brain activity. And spiritual energy And by spiritual energy, it's worth mentioning, we don't necessarily mean religion or God, although it can be if it is something that works for you. But basically, spiritual energy is about things that transcend the self. So something that helps you connect to something bigger than yourself. So for some people, it might be meditation or prayer. For some people, it might be art, it might be music, it might be creating, it might be time spent in nature and so on. And it's really important to draw from all four. However, it's worth mentioning that you don't need to dedicate the same amount of time, let's say, to each of those buckets. It's more about finding the right balance so that you draw from all four of them, but in a way that feels optimal to you. So for example, some of us may need to fulfill their emotional needs by talking to the parents or the friends every single day. Some of us might be a little bit more introverted and maybe need that contact, once a week or once a month. Some of us maybe want to pray an hour a day. Some of us maybe just need to spend an hour walking in a forest during the end of the week. So it really is individual, as everything I'm saying here. These are just like loose rules, and you have to find what works for you best. Principle number 2, and it is a really interesting one. And it says, because energy capacity diminishes both with overuse and with underuse, we must balance energy expenditure with intermittent energy renewal. And what is interesting about this is that it doesn't always mean that we do too much that makes us tired, makes us lack energy. Sometimes it's doing too little, and most importantly, not doing the things, or doing the wrong things, or not doing the things that we really crave doing at our core, that we really miss. So, there are sometimes days where, or weeks when I'm really busy and I have a lot of stuff to do and I feel really energized and I can actually do way more than when I don't have a lot to do, just because I get that drive. Now, there'll be days when I'll decide, I'm going to spend half a day on the sofa watching Netflix because the weather's not great. It is a bit grey. And I just, I owe it to myself to rest. And yeah, okay, sometimes it helps because we need to replenish that physical energy. But there are days where I just basically feel drained. So my intention is to get rest, and after a day or half a day or a day, it hasn't helped at all because that wasn't really what I needed. So it is about doing and not doing, and finding the right balance. And when it comes to replenishing energy, the rule number 3 that is very much related to the second one is, if we want to build capacity, we need to push beyond our normal limits. A very easy analogy, to understand is just when you do weight training or any kind of sports training. So to begin with, let's say this is a battery, or supposed to be a battery, maybe it doesn't really look like it. And here are the energy, let's say optimal energy levels, okay? So this is your energy battery. Now, if you go to the gym and you say you do bicep curl with 5 kilo, after some time, you're going to get used to it and your muscles are not really going to grow if you continue to use the same weight. So if you want to increase the strength of your muscles, you're going to go for a heavy one, maybe 6 kilo, right? Same here. If you want to increase your capacity of your battery, you're going to have to push past your limits, just like you would do in the gym. But the very important part is, because we tend to push ourselves and push ourselves and push ourselves, but forget about one important aspect, which is that if you increase the capacity up to here, you're then going to have to go a little bit further to reach that optimal level again. And what that basically means, if you work out harder, you're going to need more time to regenerate. And this is something extremely important, right? So if you normally run 5K and then one day you're going to run 10K, maybe you're going to need a day of break, something along the line. So these are all metaphors, but I think you know what I mean. So it's not really a marathon, it's not really sprints. I would say it's an interval training that we need to engage in. And number 4, implementing positive energy rituals. So positive energy rituals are highly specific routines for managing energy. They're basically different activities from those 4 buckets of physical energy, emotional energy, mental, and spiritual that will help us restore our energy. And they're key to full engagement and sustained high performance. So all of us will renew that energy slightly differently. We are all different, we have different preferences. Again, this is a no-brainer. You probably are well aware of that. So it is worth experimenting, and it's worth self-reflecting to actually see what works for you. So for physical energy, again, this is all very obvious. Proper diet, staying hydrated, sleep, and so on. Fine, we all know about this, yet we do forget about this. I personally know that if I don't get enough sleep, I become really grumpy and my cognitive abilities drop. Like nothing else in physical energy is as important as getting good sleep for me personally. So I'm taking a better care now of my sleep hygiene. Emotional intelligence, you know, it might be working with emotional regulation, accepting emotions. Maybe it is about engaging activities that actually help you cultivate those great emotions like joy, enthusiasm, satisfaction. Again, you know for yourself what works best. Mental, practicing optimism, switching between mental channels. So for example, if you do something that engages your left hemisphere, maybe you want to do something that engages your right hemisphere next. And spiritual energy, meditation, journaling, art galleries, whatever you fancy. And now I'd like to talk you through a 5-step process of creating your own energy management plan, in case this is something you would like to do after this webinar. So as I said, there are 5 steps: observing your energy, boundaries, regeneration, deep work, and delegation. We're going to go through each of them. Number 1, and this is absolutely crucial because, as I said, there are no rules for, you know, there's no one size fits all when it comes to energy management or anything really. And so you're the only people who can actually prepare a plan that will work for you. And to do so, there's a certain level of self-discovery that is required to see basically what works, what doesn't. And those things, you know, are about, again, hygiene, diet, the task you get engaged with, you know, the nature of work you're doing, because that, again, might be something that is draining you. Maybe your job is not really, it's not really, the nature of your job is not really something that aligns with you, with your temperament, with your preferences, and so on. Maybe it is about people, and this is a huge factor. So the people that you exchange energy with, really, because that's what it is. You know, do you have a supportive network? Do you feel energized after interactions with certain people, or do you actually feel like your battery is going down? So there is an exercise that you can do. You can draw a diagram and you can set a timer for, I don't know, every hour, every 2 hours, whatever works for you. And you can mark your energy levels throughout the day in percentages, for example, as you can see here. And you can ask yourself those questions. How is your energy? So mark it on the diagram, and you should end up with something similar to the energy diagram that I showed you for humans. Has it gone up or down since the last check, and maybe why? What or who has brought it down or raised it? So at the bottom you see a table where you can basically note what worked, what made it better, what made it worse, and what else do you notice about yourself? Any other thoughts that you may have? It is quite, I would say, quite useful to run this kind of exercise, because in general we think we know, like, you know, there are certain things that are quite obvious. We know, you know, if we prefer to work in the morning, if we prefer to work in the evening, and all that kind of stuff. But there are certain small details that we don't necessarily pay attention to. So it's really worth being intentional about it and running this kind of exercise to understand yourself better, and then use that knowledge to create your plan further. Step number 2, boundaries. This is about setting boundaries with others, but it is also about setting boundaries with yourself. And especially if you're a perfectionist or if you run your own business, and if you are a perfectionist who runs their own business, then you definitely should look into it, or at least consider it. And I know it from my own experience. And it's really easy to lose the track of time if we're really passionate about something. You know, we get in the state of flow and we forget that the world exists, but it doesn't mean that we don't drain ourselves of energy just because we enjoy doing something. And you know, when it comes to burnout, it is those that burn out. So it is the people who actually have a lot of passion, and people who get really deep into their subjects, who really engage emotionally with what they do, that are prone to burnout. So really do watch out. So what you could do, you could, for example, set a limit on the number of hours you spend on a given project. So if you need to write a report and you normally, you know, take 2 hours and then spend another 3 hours polishing it off or moving, you know, small bits around and so on. Maybe you want to say, okay, I know that will take me around 2 hours. I set myself a timer, then set another timer for half an hour just to polish it up, and that's it. And you need to be really firm with yourself. You could set a specific time after which you don't reply to messages or use your phone. And that can be in the morning, that can be in the evening. So for example, if you want to engage in, you know, your productive sessions in the morning and work on the things that matter to you, maybe setting a rule of not answering any emails, not answering any WhatsApp messages, scrolling Instagram or anything like that until 10 a.m. Or maybe it is not using your phone after, I don't know, 8 p.m. So that you actually, you know, you do a no screen routine where you actually focus on work and you're not distracted by other things. You could create a list of non-negotiables basically for yourself and commit to it. Obviously, again, that is just a suggestion. Or you could decide how many hours per week you want to dedicate to your clients outside of work. So for example, for me personally, because I have a regular 9 to 5, I know from experience and at the moment, because those things change with time, that I cannot have more than 6 clients a month. First of all, in order for this to be ethical and for me to, you know, be in resources and provide the best possible service. Secondly, for me personally, so that I don't burn out, don't run myself to the ground, and I actually continue to enjoy doing what I enjoy doing, which is working with my coaching clients. So learning to narrow down your focus, prioritizing and choosing quality over quantity. That's where boundaries help. Planning regeneration. Here we'll go back to those positive rituals. So finding the rituals that work for you from all 4 buckets. And I would say the very important part of this is to schedule those. And you could schedule them individually, but what I would also recommend is just scheduling them as a part of a certain work block. So for example, if in the morning you do, I don't know, 2 hours of content creation, you stick an extra 20 or 30 minutes, however much you need on top of that. So your content creation session is 2.5 hours, but you create content for 2 hours and then you have half an hour of rest. And again, this rest has to be tailored. So for example, yeah, if you've been sitting in front of a computer, maybe you want to do some stretching, maybe you want to do some knitting, maybe you want to do some journaling, or maybe you just want to do a bit of dancing, whatever. But finding that very intentional way to regenerate after a certain activity and having it scheduled, because, you know, if we don't prioritize it, it will never happen. A very good reminder is that people don't achieve success despite rest, but because of it. And it's something that I really want you to remember. To be to achieve goals sustainably, we need to take rest. We need to manage our energy. Planning deep work. You've probably heard about deep work, and deep work is basically engaging in tasks at hand using the maximum cognitive abilities. Now, there was a research from 1993, a paper called The Role of Deliberate Practice in the Acquisition of Expert Performance, which basically found that deliberate practice, which is akin, very similar to deep work, generally maxes out after 4 hours. Now, this is a paper from 1993. I think since then, quite a lot has changed. So I wouldn't be surprised if, you know, statistically, each of us cannot even reach those 4 hours, purely because the whole world is fighting for our attention all the time. There's beeping, there's notifications. We struggle focusing, we struggle concentrating. However, there is up to 4 hours theoretically, or even less, of the when the energy is at its peak. So it's very important to dedicate that time to those tasks that really need your, you know, your max cognitive skills, maybe creativity, maybe you have some very important projects. So finding the time during the day when you can do that deep work is extremely important. It's very good to eliminate obstacles, distractions during that time, obviously. And something to remember is to be patient, because deep work takes practice. As I said, it's something that we in 21st century struggle with. I myself definitely struggle with it, probably also because the nature of my 9 to 5, which is pretty much, you know, being all over the place, talking to a lot of people. There's not that much deep work in it. And so it is not easy, but it is something that we can improve. Again, that muscle metaphor, we can train it, and gradually with time, we can extend our capacity to do deep work. And once we arrive in that place, it is fantastic, because we can really, you know, we can get a lot of fulfillment out of it, because we are at the max of our abilities. And number 5, delegating. I've put an asterisk here because it's not always so easy. When you think about delegating, we sometimes think about paying someone money to do something, or we think about asking someone else to do something for us if we are, you know, managing people, let's say, in a company. But it doesn't always have to be that kind of stuff. There are some simple things that you can delegate in many different ways. So, for example, you could try to delegate the tasks that drain your energy at home. And this is not an excuse not to do household chores, because that's the things that we need to do. But maybe there are some things that you absolutely hate doing. For me personally, I love having a clean house. It's a priority. I hate cleaning my car and anything to do with my car. I absolutely detest it. And just thinking about it, you know, it sits at the end of my mind all the time. Oh, I need to clean the car. And I see the car, oh my God, I need to clean the car. So that is draining me of energy massively. So I have a bit of a non-written agreement with my partner, who, well, he says he minds, but he doesn't mind it that much. And he actually does everything in my car. And in return, I do the shopping, because he hates Tesco and just gives him anxiety. I absolutely detest that. So I do our weekly shopping most of the time. And, you know, it's a kind of trade-off that's really easy to implement. And it really helps. Because, again, just having stuff at the back of your mind, knowing that you have to do something that you don't like doing. But if you don't have to do it, then great. Automating tasks. Any payments, bills, investments, if there's something that you can, you know, delegate to the machines who have, you know, constant energy consumption, fantastic. Preparing templates. So I'm going to Bournemouth tomorrow for a work trip. Around a year ago, after forgetting my toothbrush, pajamas, and a phone charger again, going somewhere, can't remember where, I just prepared a template in Notion. That's called Stay Away List. And I have all the things I need to take with me, a checklist, and I literally don't have to stress about it anymore, because I just know the packing will take me 10 minutes. I open the list in the evening or in the morning, put everything in a bag. I will not forget about anything. And I can offload myself from the subconscious of thinking for the whole day, like, oh my God, I need to remember about this. I need to remember about that. I need to remember that bloody charger, because if my phone dies, you know, my tickets are there, everything is there. So it's that kind of delegation that can really help. And also reflecting on whether some things can be eliminated. How many times do we actually push a task from one week to another for like 30 weeks, and we fool ourselves that we'll finally do it, but we don't really want to do it? Well, maybe just worth crossing out of the list, because otherwise, again, it's just sucking our energy, because we think about it, but we never do anything with it. Key points, for me at least, you may have different ones. It is energy, not time. That's the fundamental currency of high productivity. So the first point, because our energy levels are not constant over time. So only managing time and not managing our energy is a waste of time, at least in my eyes. Understanding how our energy work is absolutely essential if we want to enhance productivity, because we are all different. But if we understand how it works and we apply it to our daily lives, we are able to do a way better job. There are 4 buckets with energy sources: physical, emotional, mental, spiritual. And managing energy technically means finding a balance among all those 4 types and drawing from all those 4 types in a way that works for us. Exceeding our norms, so again, trying to increase the capacity of that battery, and effectively renewing our energy using the positive rituals, whatever they might be for us. And then, last but not least, taking appropriate amount of action, not too much, but also not too little. What's next? 2 things. 2 books I recommend if you are an avid reader. I think that was the expression someone used. The Powerful Engagement, that's where the principles come from, a really good book. And Deep Work, which you might have heard about, it's a very famous book, Cal Newport. So if you want to have a read and learn a little bit more about it, please do. Secondly, if you scan this QR code, it will take you to my LinkedIn. And if you would like to connect, I would absolutely love it. It's one of my personal commitments, up to 1 webinar on networking here in this space, run by an amazing coach, Sumi, to actually network with a bit more people, connect with a bit more people. So if you'd like to connect and then ask any questions, or, you know, just have a chat, or if you have any feedback on the session as well, I would love to hear it. As I said, it's my first webinar in English. Hopefully, it was not too bad, and I was breathing as well, so it is a personal win. So if you'd like to connect, I would love to meet you.